Have you ever searched for something and have it turn up right under your nose? Well, what would you say if that something had been missing for over 30 years? Would the word miracle come to mind? Well, the man in our next story is positive that his search was given a miraculous helping hand. And when you see what happened, I think you'll agree. David Brinsley led a normal childhood growing up in Northern California, except something vital was missing in his life.
When I was a boy growing up, I didn't know my biological father. I would ask my mom questions about my father, and it was a conversation that she wasn't real comfortable with, and I noticed that.
Part of her reluctance may have been the fact that she'd never told David's biological father that he had a son. And so, while David dreamed of him, there was no father thinking of David.
I would have a lot of thoughts about him, wondering where he was, who he was. My mind would just go crazy with imaginations of, maybe he was some great politician or rich movie star or something. It was painful at times because I didn't know.
It wasn't until he met his future wife, Terry, that the thought of searching for his father became a reality.
When I met my wife and we started to date, she started asking questions about my biological father.
He would talk about the emptiness he had in not knowing his father. He had some questions about, I wonder if I look like him, I wonder if he even knows I exist. And a little part of him wanted to know, but there was more fear of the unknown.
She just kept wanting me to start looking for him. But there was a lot of holes in my heart about that because I didn't know what to expect.
He carried a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness about what he perceived to be the reason his father wasn't in his life. He told me if I ever meet him, I would walk away. I wouldn't want to know him.
But all that changed with the birth of his own son.
When we had Zach, the feelings of fatherhood were just so amazing. I could have never imagined it. How great it is to have the son. It was exciting to me to know that he was going to have his life with his dad and that he was never going to go a day without knowing how much his dad loved him and how special he was.
David suddenly missed his own father more than ever and made the difficult decision to search for him.
I was so excited. I couldn't believe it because this is what I had been hoping for, is what I had been praying for. I just knew it would be a good thing. In my heart, I knew it would be a good thing.
David had little to go on, only his father's name, Larry Lambert.
Through a friend, we ended up with 2 pictures of his father. And when he saw the pictures, I think is when the connection came for him because the likeness was incredible. He looked just like his biological father.
That night, David and Terry prayed for guidance.
I told God that I wanted to find my dad and that I was ready for the search, however long it would be, just to please open those doors. You know where he is, God. I just pray that you would just open the doors and let me walk through them. But of course, I had no idea where he was. I didn't know where to even start looking. Amen.
Amen.
David was prepared for a long and difficult search, but the answer he was looking for would come just a few days later during Sunday service at the Capitol Christian Center.
It's a large congregation. It seats anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 people, and we had our choice pretty much anywhere we wanted to sit. And people streamed in, the place filled up, it was packed that day.
But the seats in front of them remained empty, waiting for a miracle. A few days after that decision, he and his wife Terry attended Sunday service. That same morning, Maria Lee was running late for church.
And I couldn't find my Bible when we were getting ready to leave. I ended up taking a Bible that my grandparents had given to me probably when I was about 13, had my maiden name on it.
She arrived at church moments before the service was to begin.
And we had a very specific place that we sat in the church. Well, this particular morning I walked in and I don't know what happened. I took an about face and I said, I don't know, I don't want to sit in the same spot today. Let's go sit like way over there. And I pointed far to the other side of the church.
As Maria settled in her pew, the first hymn began.
And when we stood, I looked down and I noticed laying in the pew in front of me was a Bible. It was face up and it had a name inscribed on it. And I elbowed Dave and I said, take a look. His eyes lit up.
My mind was just racing on all kinds of thoughts of, wow, who could this lady be with a name that's the same name as my biological father? After service had ended and everybody was leaving, I grabbed her arm and I said, I noticed the name on your Bible is Maria Lampert. Is that your...
And he said, I know you're going to find this really odd, but...
My biological father's last name is Lampert.
Yeah. I've never met him and I've been looking for him recently.
I was just wondering if you happen to know anybody named Larry Lampert.
Oh my gosh. My heart started to race. My hands started to sweat.
Are you serious? Larry Lampert is my dad. Oh my goodness. You know what?
And at that point, I said, you know, you have the Lampert nose, which I hope didn't offend him, but that's what I said. I mean, we kind of have this dominant nose that everybody in the family has.
Are you serious?
I laughed and I said, well, actually, in the pictures, I do look like my biological father. In the photos, I look just like him.
Do you really?
I do. And she said, why don't you bring your pictures over after lunch? And I'll look at them.
I'm not doing anything.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll be there. So I was taking down her name and address, and at the very same time, we both looked up at each other and said,
My dad worked for the phone company.
Oh my gosh.
And at that point, the air was just electric. We just started shaking, and she said, I think you might be my brother. And I said, I think you might be right.
But when they arrived at Maria's home that afternoon, they were greeted by some unexpected news.
Guys,
She opened the door and she said,
ever since I got home,
I hope I don't disappoint you, but I've been calling my grandparents and I've called my aunts and uncles, and nobody has heard of my dad having a son.
Really?
Nobody knows anything about you.
Yeah, so I hope I'm not going to disappoint you guys getting you all
I just seized the moment and I grabbed the pictures out of Dave's hands and I said, well, there's only one way to find out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is my dad.
And she said, that's my dad.
I guess that makes me your brother. She was crying and I was crying. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And then she pushes me back and she says, you have no idea how much family you have.
Actually, this is Grandma. This is Dad's mom.
So Maria took us inside and I started looking at photo albums of this new family that I had just found.
And then Grandpa Bob.
Pictures of grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and pictures of my biological father. Wow, look at that.
But look.
And I was just overwhelmed because here I was looking at my family.
At that point, Maria called her father, Larry Lampert.
Hi, Dad. He said, hi, babe, how you doing?
Fine, I've got something to tell you. Are you sitting down?
And he said, no, should I?
Well, I have a brother, and you have a son.
And I said, what? I thought maybe this was the start of a joke or something.
No, I'm not joking.
I said, no, of course. And she said, well, you've got a son.
His name is David.
He said, "Are you serious? Well, what does he look like? Does he look like me?" And he just started asking me all about Dave.
He looks just like you, Dad. I'm so happy. Wait till you see him.
And he said, "Oh my gosh, I just can't believe this."
No, we've been sitting here.
He was very ecstatic, and I don't know that he'll ever admit to it, but I think my dad probably had a few tears falling. I could hear him sniffling a little bit. I certainly was crying.
And after she spoke with him for a while, she passed the phone to me.
Hello?
When I took the phone, my whole life had flashed in front of me as far as all of the fears and feelings and doubts that I had had about my biological father. What was he going to say?
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear from you. All of a sudden, when he got on the phone and said, "Dad," it was all I could do to fight back the tears, because I knew just from the sound of his voice that I've got a son all of a sudden.
And I heard David say,
I've been waiting 24 years for this conversation.
and tears were streaming down his face. And it was amazing. It was the greatest gift anyone could get.
Well, it's going to be great meeting you.
At that moment, it took
I certainly look forward to
so much pain away that I had felt for so long.
You don't know what it means to me to hear you say that.
Because here was this myth that I had played out over and over in my mind of what was going to happen when I found him, and he was excited. He wanted a relationship with me. He wanted to meet me.
Unfortunately, Larry lived thousands of miles away in Missouri, and a meeting between father and son would have to wait. In the meantime, David and Terry were invited to meet some other members of his newfound family.
As we pulled up, there was a truck in the driveway that had Missouri plates on it.
I wonder whose truck that is.
And I thought, uh-oh. Because I didn't know who all was going to be there, but we got out of the car and we proceeded up to the house.
Take your jacket. Okay. Dave, we have a surprise for you.
You do?
Here.
And there he was, just standing, just to surprise Dave.
David. It's really good to see you.
Just seeing him for the first time, the resemblance, it was almost scary.
This is my wife, Terry. What a pleasure.
When I saw Dave with his father there face to face, let us know that this was going to be the beginning of a really great journey together.
Who wants a hot dog?
Over here, we want about 4 of them.
As the family celebrated his childhood dream come true, David could hardly believe the enormous joy their reunion had given them.
How much longer?
Having my dad in my life, my biological father, it's such a feeling of fulfillment. There was a big hole in my life that has now been filled. I am just so thrilled that I have Maria in my life now too. I love her so much.
You need to let me take this over.
Touch it and you're going to get yourself this bacon.
I'm like the barbecue queen.
I believe that God was the one who brought us together. I really do. I believe that He knew that we needed each other.
So were your ribs.
So He was going to make sure that it happened, and it did.
Wait a minute.
It's just something that I never dreamed possible, having a son and being able to look forward to those moments with David and his family.
You are a fun guy.
It's a great experience.
An experience that might not have happened if David hadn't prayed for guidance, if Maria hadn't picked up a Bible with her maiden name on it, or decided at the last minute to sit in the pew in front of David and Terry.
There's so many variables that all had to line up for this event to occur, and everything happened in just a certain way. It's a miracle.
The only way that I can explain what happened is to say it's a God thing. I asked Him to help me, and He did. And now I have a relationship with my biological father, who now I get to be close to. And all of the rest of the details, they're unimportant. The important part is that now I have a full family who loves me and who I love dearly.